Are we live? Are we live? Are we live? I'm not going to go until we are live. And just, I see the comment already. Nico says that is bro doing this in Peru, his car, or his house? I'm doing this from the media workroom at the Prudential Center, where the Devils won tonight. They beat the Florida Panthers with a final score of 3-1. Let's go into some who the goal scorers were tonight. We had Jack Hughes obviously scoring that really impressive off the goalie mask goal. One of his signature goals that he's been doing for the Devils for years. And then we also had Timo Meyer rifle one in off of sneak one in off of a shot from it was like a shot pass from Shimon Nemitz. And we also had, who scored the third goal? It was Nico Hischier. Nico Hischier wide open in the slot. Really good, impressive effort there from Dawson Mercer. And then Evan Rodriguez for the Florida Panthers. But we are live here on Speaking of the Devils. Again, after a Devils win 3-1. They are 3-1-1. They've won 3 games in a row. I know that fans have long talked about the team not being able to go on these winning streaks, but they finally did it, and they have one right now. Let's see if they can make it for once again live here from the Prudential Center, from the media room here in Prudential Center. I'm your host, Ryan Novozinsky, happily joining you and taking some of your questions. So let's just get right into it. First, we're going to go here to Gerald York, who says, I think Gritsuk might have been benched in the third. If he was benched, I'm okay with it. His effort was a little lacking tonight. Definitely the worst game for Gritsuk so far. Even, I have some positive notes, I think, from that line, namely Connor Brown, who I think has been exceeding my expectations at least. But a noticeably slow night from Gritsuk. I should have asked that I should have asked that to keep in the post game, but didn't get there. If the Devils practice tomorrow, I will certainly ask that. And if you guys have any other questions, suggestions, feel free to drop them in the comment section below, because I am here to serve you. Okay, this is your bridge to the Devils, right? Basically, that's what this live stream is supposed to be. I'll connect you guys to get as closely as possible to your team. Greg Hughes, slowly becoming one of the kings of the YouTube chat. Really happy that he's joining us here once again. Just got back from the game. Another good one. Great atmosphere. Didn't get any vodka, but I got vodka. I got Aspen vodka from the New Jersey Devils. We got a nice little media gift we did from the New Jersey Devils. Also got let's see what we got in here. I got this nice card. I got this nice card that just says, I know someone was trying to, see if there was anything juicy in here. It's not. It just says, enjoy these products from our new partners this season. And it says, let's go Devils. I didn't say let's go Devils, NJ, Devils PR. That's the Devils. And then Garage Beer. Okay. And then fruit snacks, which I already ate. I ate them a long time ago. But yes, really good gift bag here. Daniel Horwitz says, great win, but it was kind of the Timo version of the Florida Panthers. I agree. There's no doubt. There's no denying that this Florida Panthers team is hurt right now. Barkov's out. Kachuk's out. This team is down and out right now. But you got to give it to the Devils, because the Panthers are off to a pretty good start this season, and Marchand's been pretty much driving their entire offense. There's no doubt about that. But hey, a win's a win, especially over the Stanley Cup champs, who, again, as we said, are without a lot of their main players. The real test for this Devils team is going to be against that Oilers team on Saturday. But certainly you'll take a win over the defending champs any day of the week. No matter how many injuries they have in their lineup. This is the first Devils win versus the Panthers. I overheard someone say this in the press conference room, so I'm just going to assume that it's true. First Devils win at home versus the Panthers since 2021. Kind of an unbelievable stat. It's been a long time since they beat that team. Jay here says, great team defense to close out the game, to close out the end of the game. Completely agreed. I mean, look, defensively tonight, I thought the Devils were really strong, aside from that first goal that they gave up, which was just, we'll kind of get into that a little bit later, but that was ugly. That was really ugly. You just had guys could just completely watching, no effort, there at all. Aside from, there was some effort there from Gritsuk, there was some effort there from Siegenthaler. But the other three on the ice, I mean, they just were completely watching. And none of them had an eye on Rodriguez, who was able to swoop in and score that goal and put the rebound away for on Brad Marchand's great effort, great effort from him, and you can see why. Um, he's been driving their offense so far for that Panthers team. Nico, I'm gonna assume you're not Nico Hischier. Highlight of the game was the ref blunder. I don't like talking about refs like that. Okay, I really don't like doing the ref excuse thing. I think it's kind of cheap, and I think it's just not fun to talk about. But oh man, jail time for the refs, right? What's going on? That was a ref show tonight, especially early on. That was oh boy, that was not good. 1 second, guys. Let me just go ahead and just tweet out the link here for the show. We got a lot of good viewers in right now, and I'm really happy that you guys are all in here. But I'm just going to retweet the link just real quick. Thank you for allowing me to do that, as we had a little bit of dead air there. We're moving on but back on the refs. It started with that really chintzy Luke call. It was I'm trying to see trying to see the exact call here. It was, my gosh, yeah, it was holding the stick, but the stick was pretty much between his legs, and everybody in the crowd, rightly probably thought that it was going to be a call on, a tripping on the Panthers, and that the Devils were going to get the 5-on-3 there, but obviously that doesn't happen. I thought it was going to be a chicken tenders kind of night, right? I don't think I'm alone in thinking that, but this is. I mean, man, like it got dicey there towards the end. If that goalie interference went the other way, I think you might have seen a chicken tender or two. Even if the Devils were up 3-1 because of that great insurance goal by Nico Hischier, I think you might have seen a chicken tender or two fly. Let's move on to Zachary Viteka, who says that Mercer has looked absolutely sick. Oh my gosh, there's a bug. Mercer has looked absolutely sick to start the season. He sure has, man. I think that first game, maybe it was, he was showing signs of some immature play a little bit, and I didn't know how the fit would be on that Nico and Timo line, but my gosh, that line gel tonight, man. And these past few games, they've all been gelling together. They almost have. I wrote it down here. They almost have a 20. Nico and Dawson almost have a 22-23 season level chemistry right now. I heard all these stories, and everybody, relaying to me how bad Mercer was last year, and it doesn't surprise me, right? I think even the year before, he was, definitely an off year for him. He's a guy that you can rely on playing every game, but I going into this year, I just wasn't sure exactly what kind of Dawson Mercer we get. Was he going to play the wing? Was he going to play the center? I thought he was an important linchpin in the lineup, but we just didn't know where he was going to play and what he was going to do with the role that he got. He's been proving a lot of people wrong. Okay, there was a lot of takes about Dawson Mercer at the beginning of the season and in the offseason, but my goodness, has he been proving a lot of people wrong with his play early on. Just the diving effort that he had on that Nico goal, that Nico assist, that was all created by him. I mean, he dives at the puck, and those are that's the kind of effort that you want to see from a guy like that, who's playing with a chip on his shoulder right now. Let's be real. Like this is a guy that last year he heard all about how the holdout affected him. His coaches were saying it. His general manager said it a couple times, how much that affected him. And now year two in the system, a little bit more comfortable, obviously, a lot more comfortable. And now he's turning it on, playing alongside two really good players. And that line is just buzzing for sure. Christopher says, great team victory tonight. Completely agreed, Christopher. Will we get a Duck Duck Gusev? Once again, every time Duck Duck Gusev comments in the chat, I have to note that if you tweet at him, his Twitter handle is at DuckDuckGoosev. It's the same thing as his YouTube name there. If you tweeted him a number, any random number, he will be able to tell you an obscure Devils player that wore that number. So everybody tweet at it, and numbers 1 through 97. Everybody tweet at DuckDuckGoosev a random number, and he'll be able to do it. But what did he say? Will we get a Daniel cameo? No, I think Daniel left already. But he got a bottle of vodka too, just like I did. Christopher says Timo looking excellent, PK great, and solid goaltending from Jake Allen. A couple points to go in through there. Timo's been awesome. 3 goals, 4 games, 4 points. March has come early this year for Timo Meyer. Usually, again, I mentioned this last stream, but usually he turns it on right and at the end of February. Early March is usually when that sort of transition period when we see Timo go from good but not necessarily stuff is showing up on the stat sheets to great when we start seeing it him pile on goals and pile on goals. This year we're getting it early on. I think that this is perhaps the biggest reason for it's one of the biggest reasons for the Devils' success here early on. Special teams has been great, aside from the power play the first couple of games. But the resurgence of Timo Meyer, I think Timo's been fine and good all along. I don't think the Devils have any regrets about trading for him or extending him. But I think everybody and their mother wanted to see him finally put the stuff on the stat sheet, right? Everybody can be a great analytical player and they can pass the eye test, and Timo certainly did both of those things. But at some point, when you trade a lot of draft capital and some pretty good young players for this guy who's supposed to be a sniper, a burly, hulking, guy that can be gritty sniper. You want to see that sniper snipe in some goals. He's finally sniping in those goals. We're seeing it early on. And hopefully for Devils fans' sake, you don't see that those cold stretches that Timo has tended to go has been known to go through in his time with the Devils and even extending back to San Jose. I thought he was awesome tonight. PK great. Yeah, definitely 94% PK to start the season. It's looked really strong. I mean, they're relentless. We'll get into that a little bit more because I'm sure a lot of people have been talking about that in the chat. And solid goaltending from Jake Allen. Yeah, definitely. Look, I think with Markstrom going down, you need someone to keep you afloat. Jake Allen is the kind of veteran to keep you afloat. You might have to have a couple Nico Dawes games here and there, but you live with that. A lot of people in the stream, 86 people in the stream. A good omen for Jack Hughes, who had an excellent night tonight. We will get more into him because once again, I'm sure that somebody has mentioned Jack Hughes. Nico again, someone that's dominating the chat tonight. Gotta say, we took way too many penalties, 100%. Even Keith talked about that, but it was, he mentioned too, with the caveat that it was kind of a weird game penalty wise, right? Because there were a lot of chintzy calls and a lot of weird things going the Devil's way. I don't like to go in and break down every single like penalty for you guys, but again, it started with that Luke one, and then that hooking call. I think what did it for me, what solidified this as a ref show for me, was that hooking call. Near the beginning of the third, that was pretty darn brutal. And the funniest part about that was that it was a ref at center ice that called that. So I don't know how he why he would be the one to see it. I'm not going to parse through each and every one of the penalties, but yeah, not great stuff from the refs tonight. And I won't be one to usually play in the rest, but when it's egregious like that, you definitely have. Oh my god, you definitely have to mention it. Okay, hold on, I'm off-centered a little bit here. How are we doing now? Okay, we looking good? Okay. All right, let's keep going. 3-1, nice win. Not to have a slow start of the season. 100%. Look, there's been slow starts to games. I think even tonight in the first 2 or 3 minutes, the Devils started out slow, and I thought it would be more of the same. But no, the Devils are from last time I covered them, at least they are a much faster starting team. And even when they start slow, I think that Keefe has good adjustments. I said it tonight in the press box. I think that Keefe is I didn't doubt his coaching abilities, but by no means. But he's definitely adjustments wise. I really like what he's able to do for this Devils team. We'll dive more into what the power play looks like in a little bit, but I think that unit is gelling right now. The rotation on that unit, the rotation 5-on-5 in the offensive zone and the cycling through there is creating all of this zone possession time for the Devils. Really impressive start for them. Let's see. JC Fowler says, great W, no one was injured. Yes, that is a big point for the Devils right now. They will take no injuries, especially with all the injuries that they have right now. I reported earlier today that I heard from somebody, I got a text from someone today that they said that they don't think the Seamus Casey injury is they just said it's not serious. It's not a serious injury. So He was skating yesterday. Kovacevic was skating yesterday too, but he does have a serious injury, obviously, so that doesn't really show you much. But I wouldn't expect Seamus Casey to be out all that longer, just to give you some sort of positive injury update. And over the next couple of days, we're going to try to poke around and see what we can figure out about this Markstrom injury too, because that was definitely eye-opening as well. But Markstrom looked like he was walking okay on the red carpet. Maybe some people, other people saw him walk a little longer than I did, but yeah, he looked okay. Okay, Rick Roma says Panthers have some big injuries and they played last night, but still a good win. Yeah, I mean, look, there's a lot of caveats that you can, try to discredit this Devils win, and I understand. Believe me, I understand a lot of them, the injuries and the fact that they played on a back to back, but you take a win. You take a win. This Devils team has had a lot of frustrating losses over the years. So you'll definitely take a win over a team that won the Stanley Cup, injured or not. Duck Duck Gusev. Once again, everybody tweeted him. We did, but the refs also called anything that was close. Yeah, no, you're right. You were definitely right, and I think that I just say at the end there, if that goalie interference went the other way, I would have been so intrigued to see if there would be chicken tenders raining down. Jay Z says Siegs and Pesci made defensive player to defensive play. Pesci tonight was awesome, and the numbers back it up too. I'm just going to pull up, some of the nerd stats for you guys. On ice, I think it was expected goals for percentage. Brett Pesci. Oh no, actually, it ended up being Brett because I guess Pesci was on for maybe a couple rough shifts there at the end, but it wasn't rough. It was just like he was expected to be one of the Devils' top defenders. So many Devils tonight. I count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 10 Devils tonight. Over 50% in expected goal for percentage. If you don't know what that means, it just means that they were really good. A lot of the players were really good tonight. You can dive into that more, and we can dive more into that at a later date. But they were on the ice for a lot of expected goals, right? Like the expected goals opportunities, so goals that the based on the puck tracking and everything like that. They were expected to be goals. But Jesper Bratt actually ended up leading the way with an 80% expected goals for percentage, but Pesci ranked up there too at 63%. At one point, I saw it was like a 85% for Pesci. So I thought that he was excellent, and anytime he's on the ice, he's just so relentless, man. I mean, we go back even to that Carolina game where he blocked a shot with his kidney, basically. The reason I would say one of the biggest reasons that this Devils penalty kill and just defensively, the Devils are gelling so well right now is Brett Pesci. So really good to see him have a positive start to the season. Zachary Viteka says, if Dawes puts on a good show and Allen is in top form, do you think that puts the Devils in a hard position with Markey coming back if we hit that 30-day, 10-game mark for Dawes on waivers? I don't, and here's why. Because you traded a whole heck of a lot of money for Markstrom. You extended Allen. I think that regardless of how Dawes does, unless he puts absurd, prime Brodeur numbers and proves that you can't send him down, then I don't think it's going to put the Devils in exactly that precarious of a situation. These coaches are going to see in practice how Markstrom is doing, and generally speaking, he'll probably do a little bit better than Dawes, who's a good young player, but has definitely been shaky in the past, and against NHL competition, like he's going to come up, and it's kind of a precarious spot for him. I don't think there's I wouldn't hold my breath for Nico Dawes to kind of light it up like that. All due respect to him, I just think that they're going to keep Markstrom up on top. Duck Gusev, got to beat them when they're down. That's what good teams do. Absolutely. No, 100%. Rick Roma, this is the best Mercer has looked since his rookie season. Yeah, and look, he had a good 22-23 as well. I think that 22-23 season, you saw a lot of players have, and this is a testament to how things were gelling, but things were gelling. Like almost everybody on that team had a career high that year, including Dougie Hamilton, who was obviously one of the longer tenured guys on that team. So it's shocking to see him have a career high, but he had a career high that year too. So things were kind of inflated this year or that year. We'll get into this. We can get into this now. I think we're seeing that, whereas that Devils team was upstart, plucky, young, darlings of the league. They were, newcomers, right? This Devils team is the matured version of that, right? They have a lot of good depth now. That bottom six, I think we can comfortably say is now solid, right? After last season, which was so pitiful. This season we're getting not only the bottom six gelling, but the top six, the young core that we just talked about, the one that was most responsible for that successful 22-23 season. We're seeing the mature version of that. We're not just getting off the rush and then dipsy do in the zone and try to figure it out and just pepper and try to get the most Corsi, try to get the most shot attempts up. No, 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 no. Things are structured. Okay, there is a good cycle. The guys are creating open lanes. Guys are passing it. Guys are moving around the perimeter to create these passing lanes, and the passes have been crisp. Um, the biggest part, though. This is the most important part for as to why the Devils have looked so much more mature this year. They are driving inside. They're attacking the net. You see that a lot. And I think on the forecheck too. The forecheck has looked really positive this year. Look, people don't really like to talk about, and I understand why. The Palat and the little things that he does, like that's always such a cliche buzzword that's thrown around when you talk about Palat, especially for a guy that's making the kind of money that he is and who, point production wise has been kind of as disappointing as he has been. The way that he forechecks on that line with Jack and Brad, it creates opportunities for those two. It keeps them in the zone. It applies pressure to the other team, and it creates opportunities for Jack and Brad. So it's really good to see, the way this team has matured. Everybody was talking about that in the post game. We asked, Jack was asked a question about you know playing from the Devils not deflating basically after going down 1-0, which they've seen so many times in the past, and a lot of times in the past it's killed them, right? Those 1-0 deficits, they can't climb out of that hole. The Devils did not flinch this time, right? They quickly dominated the Panthers after that 1-0 hole. And quite honestly, aside from that defensive breakdown and ugly defensive play in front of Allen on that play, they dominated Florida all the way afterwards, right? Jack talked about how this is the sign, this is the true ultimate sign of this team maturing, and that's why you're going to see this team potentially go on a run this year, for reasons like that. Their persistence on the forecheck, the way they're moving in the offensive zone, the way they're cycling in the offensive zone, really positive signs, and just special teams too. I mean, gosh, stop committing these dumb penalties, but like if your penalty kills playing like that, you can kind of afford it. Dr. Gusev, that is true. Devils had the last 5 at home versus Florida. Jay-Z said Brad looked hurt. Any ideas? No, but if there's practice tomorrow, we'll check in on that. But I quite honestly did not see that at the end there. Rick Roma, was that goalie interference on the Panthers' bad call, or am I crazy? I don't know. I don't know what goalie interference is, so I don't care. Don't ask me goalie interference questions because I will never answer them. I don't know, and I don't care. Okay, Zachary Viteka. Sorry, I didn't mean to take that out on you, Rick Roma. I love you, buddy, but don't ask me about that. I hate that. I hate goalie interference, and I don't care, and nobody knows what it means. And if they do, they say they do, they're lying. Zachary Viteka. Bradder with Apple number 300. What a steal it has been since day one. It's still insane that this guy was a 6th-round pick. It really is. Jin4576 says the Phantom holding the stick penalty was insanely bad. Really bad. I saw tweets tonight saying it was one of the worst calls they've ever seen. Maybe. Yeah, maybe. I don't know. Andrew Rye, those continuous interference hooking calls were insane, especially the blatant trip on Heischer. 100%, man. 100%. Zachary Viteka, oof, that Luke Hughes hold was brutal. Just the next couple of comments are about, just the refs and stuff like that. So we'll kind of skip over these for now to try to get caught up at the end here. Let's see. Mercer has looked great. Yep. more refs, more refs, guys. It's okay. It's what it is. How do we like the setup tonight? Is the comments? Do we like the comments going live? Do we like the comments being pinned? I was doing a little research on how to work this tonight, and it looks like it's looking good. So I hope it does look good. Again, this is the first stream at home. Like and subscribe, like and subscribe, like and subscribe. But this is kind of a work in progress because this, I kind of just figured out this room last minute. So we'll see how we do going forward, or if we change up the background or anything. But I know you guys aren't here for the background; you're just here to talk about your team. So you might have to live with this for now, but roll with the punches. You'll be fine. Rick Roma, MSG was blasting AC/DC during the intros, so you can tell me who got the loudest pop. Probably Nico Heischer. Gritsu got a loud one. Seamus Casey got a loud one. And he wasn't even on the ice. And then obviously Jack Hughes, and I just love like when there's someone with an ooh in their name, like Luke, like it's just great whenever you can see that. Nice to see MSG telecast spend money this season. Don, Corey, Rupp feel like they've been cheap until now. Yeah, listen, the MSG broadcast, as I reported earlier today, you got Don LaGreca, you got Corey Schneider, and you got Mike Rupp. Yeah, someone called me earlier today and just said, "Hey, this is happening." So I was I I have seen so much Corey Schneider analysis over the years, and of course, like the and Rupp has been great too, and he's experienced with it. I'm just so excited to see some good, real like Corey Schneider is like a real honest guy. So I'm really excited to see some of that brought to the MSG show. It's gonna be awesome. I think that's gonna be a really good addition. Um, Jack and Nico were pretty equal. Rick, I don't know what you're talking about. Duck Duck. I never know what you're talking about. Duck Duck Gusev. Nico, you should have James Nichols on as a guest sometimes if he wants. I don't want to. Have that Staten Island stench near me. So no, I'm joking. We'll work that out. That's in the talks. Dire Wolf Keith has them playing some dominant neutral zone hockey. Jack is getting back to himself. Timo is playing like it's March. Got to stay healthy. All great points, Dire Wolf. Yeah, that neutral zone play has been great. Keith has just been stressing like little things like that, and that's not even a little thing. That's like a big portion of the ice, obviously. But like the Devils before were just such an off the rush zone entry, get in the zone, and again, going back to the Lindy days, it was just get in the system, or sorry, get in the system, get in the offensive zone, and kind of figure it out from there, and just kind of pepper the goalie with chances. Now it feels like there's structure there. It feels like he's using these guys, he's using these players that are just great athletes to their fullest peak potential, right? Like it feels like having and stressing the defensive side of the game for these guys, and he really is honing in on that. I think that's why you kind of saw Jack get off to a slow start, was that Jack was trying more so to get things going on defense, and away from the puck, versus trying to lean into the offense that he's so signaturely known for. I don't even know if that's a word. So Keith mentioned that today, and he mentioned when I asked him at practice the other day, like about Jack's kind of slow start to the season, he mentioned that he thinks Jack has been awesome in the defensive zone and in the neutral zone. So yeah, I think there's some good structure under Keith. I've been very impressed with what I've seen so far. Stan McCune, I liked what I saw from Nemec tonight. He seems to be gaining confidence. Yeah, man. No, strong game from Nemec tonight. That shot pass that he had to set up Timo's goal was impressive, and just looked good all around. So good to see Nemec after a kind of a shaky start to the season, but hot and cold, I would say, goes through some spurts there. We'll see. Let's see going. Alex Campbell, only concern with Meyer playing this well is feeling nervous. He'll go cold, double the amount of time he's on for. Really hope he keeps this up. I think a big point with Timo is that he hasn't spent a lot of time on the power play one, right? The fact that he's on the right flank, and Keith talked about this after the game as well. I think he has his home there now, right? I think that we can finally. So now that he's on power play one, and if he continues getting minutes like this, I think that we're going to see Timo finally put up the numbers this year. I just think we are. He's been in those positions before, and he's been such a dominant player analytically, but on the stat sheet, you haven't seen it. Now he's kind of in the positions to do it, right? Jack can feed in the puck. Jesper Bratt fed on the puck the other day when he scored a power play goal. That right flank, it's just, that's his shot, man. That's his spot. He can do it. So good to see him on there. I think the numbers will come from it. Aside from the nice gesture he did for Grits, get him off the ice or at least off line one. Again, I think that there were, I think of the issues tonight, I don't think Palat on line one was one of them. Although, from a holistic view, I certainly agree with you that I would rather see Gritsuk on line one. Despite the cold performance tonight. Sorry, just adjusting the camera a little bit here. It's like leaning a little bit. I don't want it to fall over. Let's keep going. Thomas Gonay, it's time to move Grits into the top six. I agree again holistically, but maybe not tonight. It was kind of one of his slower nights. Palat has been out the door when Kovacevic is ready to be activated. I'm again one of the storylines that I'm probably the storyline that I'm most curious about this year is what the heck's going to happen when Kovacevic gets back, because it's going to mean there's going to be some sort of deal, right? And it's going to have to be a lot of money moved out. So we'll see what happens. I think Jack's defensive play tonight was underlooked. The amount of times he casually pickpocketed the Panthers along the boards was just chef's kiss. Agreed, Andrew. Jack finally looking like himself today. Yeah, look, Anna Luisa, I'll just say this, like that was a vintage Jack Hughes night. It was one of those games where Jack just has this innate ability to just take over a game. And when it's a Jack night, within like the first 5 minutes or so of the game, when he just takes over. Oh my gosh, this is like falling. Oh, what is happening? Sorry, everybody. Bear with me. You just know when it's happening. Tonight was one of those nights where it was noticeable early on. So yeah, really good to see Jack kind of turn it on there, and let's just see if this continues going forward. I think it will. I think maybe now he's taking more of an emphasis on that offensive end of the ice, but we'll see. Because I know that was a big stressor for Sheldon Keefe, was improving the defense going forward. Banger game from Jack for sure. His defensive side of the game has gotten progressively better over the years. Yeah, it's always been an underrated aspect of his game. He's always been a quick player. Obviously, and probably one of the better skaters in the league. But defensive side of the game, defensive game has been really good for him. First game without any injuries. The win was cherry on top. Yeah, no, any game for the Devils where you can skate away with no injuries is a positive thing for them because of the bad luck they've had early on this season. Home team goals must be cheaper at the Rock than MSG. Good one, Daniel Horwitz. Yeah, we saw the Rangers still don't have that. They scored tonight, but they didn't get one when they weren't at home, and they also lost in overtime. So things are happening there on the other side of the river that maybe aren't so positive. Gerald York, Dawson seems to be back. If the Devils go anywhere this year, he's going to need 30-30, which I think he can achieve, especially with the way that line's going. Look, when he was with Nico, just 2 or 3 years ago, it was his best year, right? And some of his best numbers that he put up. I think it was like him, Nico, and Tatar. That was the line. That was the one that was gelling. I said earlier in the stream, it looks like they have a 22-23 level chemistry, that duo of Nico Hischier and Dawson Mercer. Really good to see Dawson Mercer having a strong start to the season. Nico says, I'd say next game is going to be the game that proves we're a strong team. Yeah, no, that's the test. This is the ultimate test for the Devils. Against an Oilers team that has their health right now, that's off to a decent start themselves. I think at least I honestly have no idea if I just told the truth right now. They could have not won a single game, and I would. Oh no, they're 2-1-1, of course. They lost to the Islanders though. But yeah, no. Listen, that is the litmus test. It's such a litmus test that we're going to be going live on Sunday. We're going to be going live Saturday, of course, but we're going to be going live another time on Sunday just to break down that game and how it, how that kind of correlates to my season preview prediction that the Devils are going to win the Eastern Conference this year, because I think that's the ultimate test for them. I actually had them losing to the Oilers in the Stanley Cup, but that's neither here nor there. Gerald York says, what do you think happens when Casey comes back? I think he's ready to play in the show. I really don't want to lose the kid. I think he would probably get sent to Utica. To be honest with you, yeah, that's just what I think is going to happen. Just I just don't think he's quite right. I think that he's a really solid player, and I think he has a high ceiling. I just wonder, the Devils have such a log jam on the right side of their defense that I've been saying all along that I think this team is they're going to do something. At some point, they're going to have to push the chips in. I think it's going to be a big trade. I think they're going to make a big trade at some point this season, because why else would they have kept all of these big, chips that they've had? Why would they not push it in? I think they're going to at the deadline. Whether that's Quinn, whether that's a top six wing to a scoring wing to plug with Jack, remains to be seen. But we shall see. Interesting, they swapped Hughes and Hamilton on the PP. If matchup based, what's the rationale? I thought that I wrote it down here too. I thought it was curious that they did that. I thought it was very curious they did that. Given that the success that unit had in Columbus, I don't think Dougie necessarily contributed largely to that success in Columbus, but you rarely see that from coaches, that they'll change things up after having some success. I just wonder. I was talking about this with someone earlier. I just wonder if they just know that they're going to trade Dougie Hamilton, so they want to give Luke Hughes the reins to the power play one early on here. But I say continue riding the success and try to increase Dougie Hamilton's trade value if you can. Put him on the power play one and increase that trade value, and maximize what you can get from him. But that's why I'm not a coach of this team. We'll see. And Louisa says, I know it's very early and Panthers playoff hockey is a different ball game, but couldn't help but think a series between these two teams would be special, especially their games last season too. Yeah, listen, and the Devils have had a lot of success, especially on the road against the Panthers. So, I don't blame you for thinking that they could have some success against them in the playoffs. But that Panthers team is just so experienced and so good, and they're going to get so much healthier once the playoffs come around, that thought kind of creeps through your mind, right? So if you can avoid Florida in the playoffs, avoid Florida in the playoffs. If you can avoid Carolina in the playoffs, avoid Carolina in the playoffs. Yeah, I'll just leave it at that. Joey Hill says, "Let's go, Joey. Joey Fivehole. I thought it was Joey Hill. Joey Fivehole trademark says, let's go, indeed, Joey Fivehole. Damn it, Ivaldi says, if the Devils are in playoff contention come January when Kovacevic is expected to return, do you think they try to move Hamilton or Palat or let Covey sit on IR? I think they'll maybe try to move one of those two. I think the Devils are to me. I think they're going to make a blockbuster move this year. I don't know what that ends up being, and maybe teams will sense that desperation, and this will be, which will render this whole conversation useless to move off those contracts. But I think there are teams that would be keen on taking a guy like Dougie Hamilton. I just think that he still has a lot of value in this league, and I think that they can probably charm a team into taking him. Nico says Meyer has been electric since last year and was sloppy at the beginning. Glad to see him beginning to produce early in the year, 100%. NJ Hockey Now, the slipping Jimmy Nichols, the Staten Island stench. Ryan First all night tonight. Ryan Feisty all night tonight. I was, man. I was insulting Nichols all night. Greg Hughes says, "Did you see Schneider or Rupp? How often are they expected to be at the Rock?" The person that I spoke to today, they didn't have the exact number, but they obviously told me the news. But they just said that it was going to be a bunch of games. I don't know the exact number. I can't even ballpark it for you, but they just said it will be a bunch of games. Schneider was not on the broadcast tonight. I thought I heard earlier, like the person that told me, I was in the car while they were talking to me. They said that I guess Rupp was the only one that was going to be making the debut tonight, but we should see Schneider soon enough here. Rick Roma, another king of the chat, someone I always see in this chat. So thank you, Rick. What are your thoughts on Hallinan so far? I thought he's been fine. I think he had a better game last game. That fourth line, can we talk about that fourth line for a second? I think that fourth line had let me just find my notes here. Where is it? Glendening. Gosh, yeah, this is great. This is great on air stuff, Ryan. near the beginning of the second period, there was a shift from that fourth line that I swear to you was one of the best shifts, if not the best shift from this team all year. It was awesome. It was just a bunch of great chances. Cotter had a really good chance. Cotter had, what I would probably consider a high danger chance. Glendening had a look. He shot one from the right hash mark. And I think he tried to like backhand it in. Tarasov was just a beast tonight, man. What is it with Devils? Someone try to tell me in the chat. What is it with you Devils and your backup goalies just looking like prime Martin? Because like that is what Tarasov looked like at points tonight. I mean, there were crazy, crazy looks there tonight. I can't believe that. Tyler Seba says, Novo, we need to find out why ESPN Plus doesn't show MSG pre and post game shows. I have gotten that question so many times today that I will ask someone. Okay, I will hopefully have an answer for you maybe sometime tomorrow or something, or sometime this weekend. But I will definitely ask that, Tyler. So thank you for bringing that to my attention. Speaking of Corey or Rupp, can you find out if they can podcast about the Devils? I like Corey and Boyle, but Boyle. Oh, I'm not gonna dump that guy. All I can say is that I'll have them as guests on the show. That is 100% confirmed. We talked about that a little bit today. Cranman 85, late to the stream tonight. I'm late to the stream tonight, but what a great win. I'm nervous about Saturday. Get that elusive. Yeah, that's another interesting aspect to this Oilers game. Can they finally get over that hump and get that highly sought after 4-game winning streak that we all know that they've been searching for a while? Tim City 30 says, do you expect to continue to see Luke and Dougie rotating in and out of the power play one? I don't know. I don't know if this is going to end up being a rotation or what. All I know is that it was very curious to see that switch made tonight, especially after such a good performance from that power play in the first couple games. Or not the first couple games. The first couple games were pretty bad. But the last couple of games. Thomas Gannett says Tage Thompson would be a really good ad. I agree so much. I think that would just be the perfect kind of, good size to add to that top six, man. I think Tage Thompson would be awesome to add. And could certainly score it too. So, it'd be fun to plunk him with Jack somewhere. Nico says we are either losing Hamilton or Palat, which sucks because Palat has been really good recently. Agreed, Nico. Agreed. He's been definitely showing out, especially tonight. Again, his forechecking tonight created opportunities for the Devils, created opportunity for his line mates. Cranman says Novo was the in-house arena meal tonight. Hopefully not chicken parm. No, it was actually really good, dude. It was like a steak. It was like steak, mashed potatoes, a little tortellini. And then I'm going to show this again. This is really cool. We got some vodka. I didn't drink this, and I'm not going to because I have to drive home. But it was really good. Let's see. Dammit Evaldi says, compared to your time when Lindy was coaching, can you feel an overall difference to the locker room with Keith leading the room? Yes, I can. I don't like to go. I don't like to go into the criticism because I always heard the criticism that like Lindy was country club, like that was a country club atmosphere. I don't think that's a entirely fair assessment because I think Lindy could be a disciplinarian at times. I just think players definitely did get a little bit away more with stuff than they did with Keith, and I think Keith, quite frankly, is just right now. I think he's a better hockey minded and his system is better suited for this team than I think Lindy's was. And I think Lindy's system, to his credit, I think at times there were some really bright spots. I was that 22-23 season. And I think for a team like that being like a nice off the rush kind of skilled, speedy, rope-a-dope kind of team like the Devils, I think Lindy's, the way he emphasized offense was a good thing for them at times. But I've had players say to me, ex-Devils say to me that it was just players would come up to them and say, how do you even learn this system? But as far as Lindy Ruff goes, so that's just a couple things that I've heard across the league. Nico says Luke has been also very good, even missing training camp, even though he didn't get a point today. Still notice him in a good way, 100%. And look. He had that little breakaway with the slap shot there, obviously showing off some frustration there. Rightfully so, was pretty frustrated after that call. Luke has been great since training camp, or since missing training camp. That's been a quite the pleasant surprise there, I'm sure, for Devils fans. So, um, yeah, I think that I half expected this just because I think it was kind of in his blood. Like Quinn had such a good season after he missed training camp a number of years ago. I said the night too to slip in Jimmy Nichols and Daniel Amoya. I said Jack Hughes. We all know when Jack Hughes again can take over a game. He has this innate ability to just take over a game, and it's going to be a Jack Hughes night. From our vantage point, we're going to be talking to Jack Hughes after the game, and you can see within like the first 5 minutes of the game, when Jack is on, he's really on. Quinn has that ability too, just to take over games. Imagine when Luke gets that, because I think that again, it's in the blood. What happens when Luke gets that? If he gets that, I think that'll just add another element to this Devils team. Duck Duck Gusev says, one day, Ryan, I will finally have the time to dig into the numbers of the amount of times it's happened. Um, I I have no idea what you're talking about. Maybe I don't know. I don't know. We'll figure it out. I'm moving on. Duck Duck. I talked to you enough. No, I'm joking. Joking. Keep talking to me, Duck Duck. Of course, keep blowing up the comment section and like and subscribe, everybody. Like and subscribe. We're having a lot of fun with this so far. It's funny. Like I honestly only thought that these streams would be like little 20-minute things after the games, but here we are at the 46-minute, and I still have like an hour drive home. And we're still having a good time here, and the chat is still blowing up, so we love this. Andrew I, sorry if you already answered this, but it sounds like Nason could play very soon. Where do you think he slots in? I feel like you can't separate that second line. Yeah, you definitely can't. So I wonder. Oh man, that's a good question. Where do you slide Nason in? Do you put him in the bottom six to start? Do you slot him in on the fourth line? Do you take Hallinan out? Do you break up that third line? I think outside of today, where I don't think they gelled quite as nicely as they did in games past, but that's an interesting conversation. Maybe you bump Palat down. I don't know what you do because Palat had a good night tonight too. So that's an interesting question. I'm not going to give you an answer because I want to think about it a little bit more. And sorry to disappoint on that answer, but yeah, that's something and to your first point, um, Nason's going to play very soon. I wouldn't be shocked if he played on Saturday. Um, Tyler Seba writes, I think we see Luke against an aggressive PK where we need to be constantly moving, and see Dougie where we need to be stationary. Yeah, great point there on both guys, Tyler. Um, easy about Luke Hamilton PP. I thought Keith said to be matchup based. I don't know what that means. It probably is exactly what Tyler Seba says. Maybe Luke against an aggressive one, and then Dougie against one that's a little more, a little less aggressive. Let's see. Nico says Lindy was clearly more worried about you watching the game than his players. Good one, Nico. All I can say, I cannot wait. I cannot wait to see Lindy on, on November, whatever the heck the Devils play the Sabres. I think it's just, no. Lindy and listen. I will tell you this. Just peel back the curtain a little bit. Lindy and I are great off the game. Like there are days where I'm like, oh man, I miss Lindy. I say that a lot around the rink. You'd be surprised how much I say that because it was just he was a good guy. He was a good guy. Dime season might be a long stretch, but how Keith did this with Jack, do you think we see Grits on the PK ever? It's a good question. Look, his defensive game has been better than I thought. Again, a little quieter game from Gritsuk tonight, but his I would not be surprised. Look, the development that Jack that Jack took, and putting him on the PK a little bit, and then Bratt is like the textbook example. Although Bratt always had a little bit of that defensive edge to him, but was coached up over the years. I wouldn't be surprised. The Devils love experimenting with guys on the PK, so maybe you see about that. John Murray says, "Can you ask Luke what his thought process was in that breakaway clapper?" I'm curious too, man. Look. It was weird because Tarasov was kind of out there too. He was playing it up, so I honestly think, John, I think it was just a frustration thing. The Hughes bros are all about finesse though. Why aren't you going in and using that finesse? Duck Duck Gusev was talking about okay, this is what he was talking about earlier. He was talking about the backup goalies. Okay, he's talking getting me a stat. Run the stat number on there. Get me the stats, Duck Duck Gusev. Easy says, any updates on your podcast? No updates yet. we're working on it. I promise you, I will give you an update as soon as I can. I'm not leaving you in the dark here. We're just trying to figure this out. Gerard says, loving the coaching system, the maturity of the PK, passing their own zone, and on the PK finding to find a clear. Also, the last 3 wins feel different, like a mature team. Let's go Devils. That was the theme of the press conferences tonight. Was talking about how mature this team is. That was the question that I asked Sheldon Keefe after the game. Shout out to Jimmy Nichols, who I don't like to give shout outs to usually, but he asked a great question or got a great answer from Jack, where Jack talked about that how this team kind of does feel a little different. Like when they're playing down, this team feels like a team that they're not the old Devils. They're not, they're playing with less risk, man. They're playing. They're like you said, they're clearing the puck. The PK passing has looked nice. The ozone again, the way they cycle through the ozone, and to me, the biggest point of maturity is the way they drive to the net. Whereas before they're trying to force a lot of these shots from the outside, these guys are driving inside. They're recognizing that, oh wow, if we attack the net and if we attack closer on, maybe we can have a little bit more success because we can already shoot it from outside. What about if we move inside? It's simple. It's simple, really. But the Devils are figuring that out. Look, these aren't those young Devils anymore. It doesn't seem like, right? Seems like a team that's really growing right before our eyes. Um, Nico says, "Well, I have PSATs for school, but this matters more. You follow Chris Telegram PSATs. Who remembers those? Oh my gosh! Wow, that just threw me off. The PSAT is amazing. Yes, I do follow Grits on Telegram. It's very wholesome content. Even if people think that the Devils are evil for their telegrams. Or sorry, for abandoning him in Columbus, which they most certainly did not do. Crane Man 85, one of the kings of the chat, says, "I love these 3 wins because they have won different ways. Tampa was get out to a big lead, handle the counterpunch, and win. Columbus was grinded out, and today was a comeback and 60-minute effort." Really good point there, Crane Man. That again was one of those things that shows their maturity. Damn it, Ivaldi says, with the way this salary cap is currently expected to go up, do you think we can realistically afford the future core 6 long term, post 2030, Hughes trio? I love it. I love how we're just saying that it's the Hughes trio right now. It's very funny. Nico Brattenmeyer. One of them is almost certainly going to be cost. Like they're. I don't know if they can afford all these guys. Quite frankly, unless someone takes a major pay cut, which maybe someone will. Connor McDavid just did. A lot of the Panthers just did. So maybe someone does. I don't know. I don't know the answer to that question. It's one of the storylines that I think is going to define this team, obviously, but at some point something's going to have to give because you can't afford these guys forever. So we'll see. NJ Hockey Now, James Nichols says it's true at least once per day. He says he misses Lindy. I don't know about once per day, but I have said it quite frequently. Dan Altano says, "What do you think of Nemich's game so far? He seems solid, but reserved." Agreed. Yeah, no, I definitely agree. But again, tonight was one of the more. I think tonight was one of his more polished games, which is the growth that you want to see. And again, I hone in on that. The obvious play that from Nemec tonight was that was the shot that he'd had to set up Timo there. So that was really good from him. Nico again says, "What do you think of this crappy schedule? How we only played the Rangers 3 times and only once at home." Yeah, it sucks, man. The schedule's kind of a letdown this year, and it's tough early on. The Devils are at least, sniping away at these opponents and peeling off wins here. But we'll see with the real test on Saturday. But yeah, no, it's been the schedule. I don't really like the way it's shaking out. I'll say this: no schedule is worse than the one they had in 23-24, where they had all those like a historic number of back-to-backs. Even the Devils were pissed about that. Like they I think I've talked to people around this building that thought that the team was screwed from that. And they haven't certainly an argument to be made there. Thomas Gannay, unless we have any final other questions that you guys have, this might be the last one. Unless you guys get your last ones in, I'm more than willing to take them. Got to get to the finals to get those pay cuts. Agreed, man. That's the That's the key to this all, It's the reason that McDavid took one, because he sees them, on the precipice there of potentially winning a Stanley Cup. You have to get to the finals before we could start talking about pay cuts, because this team, these players are determined to win. I haven't seen this team more determined than they are going into this year. I always talk about Nico kind of being the leader in that regard. He's obviously the leader of the team. There's a reason he has the C on the sweater. But the way that he's talked this year just feels a little different. There's a different vibe to this team that again, that maturity that we talked about. I encourage you guys to go listen to the post game press conference, because that was brought up a lot, and it just hit me like a ton of bricks tonight, man. Like they're just playing a lot more mature, and I think that the trying to find exactly who said it. Cranman said that, I'll put the comment up. The way that they're winning, the fact that they had, that they had to get out to a big lead, and they had to handle that. It was so mature from them. Columbus grinded out against a team that's a little more physical, a little more, a lot of size in that lineup. Um, and then the comeback effort today was also really nice. All right, going to take the last couple here. Nico, your comment is the cutoff, and then I will get wrapped up here. Almost going an hour, guys. This has been a lot of fun. Those back-to-backs in 22, 3, 24 gave me PTSD. Yeah, those were rough, man. Especially, no one cares about the media and like whatever, we have to go through. But I hated coming here 2 days in a row. It was awful. Final one for me, aside from the difference in sports, the amount of games played, what was the major difference between covering the NHL compared to the NFL? The players, the access, the first, and the players were in the NFL. Like after game stuff, they didn't care. Like they would Malik Neighbors would sit there and kind of like rip Brian Daboll, like very publicly. So that was very interesting to see. You don't really see that happening in the NHL that often. And then the access is just a million times better here. Like it just felt, it's hard to break through in the Giants. That's all I'll say. It was just, because they didn't really help you out that much. Cranman, Novo might see you Saturday. I'll have a Mike Camilleri Michigan hockey jersey. Thanks for doing this. Let's go Devils. Cranman, I would love to shake your hand, my friend. We'll make that happen. Nico says, what do you think about the food change at Prudential Center? That the Prudential Center did. Last question for me, because I do have to need to stay awake for the PSATs. The food, the media food was better this year. I cannot say. I have journalistic integrity. I cannot say whether the food is better or not, because I have not tried it yet. Maybe I'll do some sampling on Saturday, and I'll get an answer for you. Dr. Gusev, go home. Ryan's getting late. I do have a long ride home, so that's true. But I kind of want to break an hour here. I feel like we made it this far. We have to break an hour. This will not be an hour every time, but maybe the chat's this active, which it is today. Dan Altano, when it comes to our new assistant coaches, have you noticed any noticeable differences in what they're bringing? Not really. Well, I guess Jake Allen talked about today, Brad Shaw, a lot of players were kind of getting adjusted to him. That's not necessarily a bad thing. It's just a new coach coming in. So it makes sense. I was shocked to see McGill go away, because it was like, I thought defensively they've been pretty successful over the years. And I thought McGill was a guy they liked, but evidently, they let him go. And maybe that's just, Keefe wanted to get some of his guys in and changing up and finally filling out his staff. But yeah, no, I don't know that there's been any effable difference that I've seen. But when the players talk about, I'll try to pulse the locker room a little bit more and try to figure that out. Thomas Kinney, thank you for doing the show. Guys, thank you for joining in. This has been a lot of fun. Gerald York, thanks again for doing this. Novo, the show is great. Thanks again, Gerald. Appreciate that. I mean, we have to finish. We have to go an hour now. So we have 1 minute left. Damn it, Evaldi says, think we need a new segment instead of Chico Eats. Start doing Novo Eats and give your thoughts on all the food vendors throughout the season. That is $1 million idea. We can even clip some of those and put them out. That would be a lot of fun. I've been criticized for my palate in the past. I love Wawa. I love I call it pork roll. Unfortunately, to the a lot of people resent me for that, but I think that I can deliver some strong food takes Nico, actually, one thing, dude, go study for your PSATs. What are you doing? Um, actually, one thing, I feel like the Devils don't have a lot of fun theme nights this year. I haven't I've looked at them. I would have to give them a second look. I don't know the answer to that question. Dr. Gusev, this is a perfect way to end the show. Wah wah rah. Okay, there we go. Well, guys, thank you so much for tuning in once again. Okay, let's just go with Thomas Goodnight. Okay, to break 1 hour, great for GM Tom Fitzgerald. Off season now that we're 4 games in. Man, I mean, at the time I wasn't very bullish on it, but it's growing on me, man. Every new acquisition that he's had um has resulted, has been very positive so far, right? We're 4 games in, of course, but you know, and we'll see how this ages. And maybe you wanted to see him make that kind of big splash acquisition, but I thought that this team would need that kind of like top six winger to be really successful. But evidently, and people told me all throughout, people around this building said, no, like I think what they need is just kind of a consistent team. I think they need to keep the same unit. And I think this unit can kind of grow together. And the new additions will just be the new additions, and they'll gel well with them. Connor Brown has been really good. Um, Dadanov, injured right now, but we'll see kind of how he does. Gritsu coming over, that's an acquisition, right? Like you bring him over from Russia, that's an acquisition. Re-signing Cody Glass, re-signing Jake Allen. Obviously, that's proven to be really important and crucial so far. Time will tell to see how these acquisitions age, but right now I would have to give it an A, right? You would have to. Connor Brown, as really quick guy, and has a little more skill than I thought he would. There was a play tonight. I have it in my notes here. Let me just do this before we leave. He showed. I mean, it was like in the third period there. He missed the shot, but he showed off his speed tonight, man. Like darted towards Tarasov's crease, tried to backhand in a shot, went wide, but it was good to see that kind of skill from a guy who's supposed to be just kind of a bottom six guy. So yeah, really like to see it, and those acquisitions have been really good. Let's wrap it up here because it's been an hour. It's been over an hour. We had a really good time tonight, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. Tune in again. We're going to be going live after Saturday's game versus the Edmonton Oilers right here once again from the Devils media room here in the Prudential Center. And we're going to be going live Sunday as well to discuss that game yet again and these past 2 games because they've all been kind of a litmus test for the Devils and their potential success this season. But for Ryan Novozinsky, NJ.com Devils reporter, and the Speaking of the Devils show, thank you so much for tuning in, and we will see you next time.